I'm a composer. I'm interested in how does sound affect me? What's the characteristic of it? How does it move me emotionally?
The first few minutes is really intense because the lights get dark and you can't see anything, and you start to sort of follow all the sounds, and it's just a really new experience.
Well, it's interesting with the speakers above, below, and all around you. I definitely felt like sometimes I was above the sound and sometimes I was below the sound, so almost like flying sort of feeling.
Well, Audium has been an evolving idea having to do with composing in space, using space as a language and sound. Audium is located in San Francisco, has been for umpteen years. The first time I got together with my partner, Doug McEachern, who equally was a very fine musician, along with having a strong interest in electronics, the two of us kind of teamed up way back in about 1958, goes way back. And we started to kind of tinker with the idea of space together, and it seemed to be a very fascinating notion. And so the net result was that we started to play with multiple speakers and place them around, and Doug built a very primitive board to be able to input a simple mono tape and then eventually a stereo tape to be able to move it around an audience. In the early 60s, there was a lot of different movements in dance and in the visual arts and theater that was kind of challenging the establishment. And I think we fit into that category of being different. Some of our first programs that were more organized dealt with a dance group at that time, Ann Halpern, and we surrounded her dancers with a whole set of speakers around, and that became kind of the beginning seedlings of what we eventually took in a deeper way that developed into Audium. And then one day actually my wife and I passed here, and it was an old bakery, Stempel's Bakery, and they had a big sign out in front, that we were selling the building. By 1975, we had built it, but it took about 2-3 years to develop, get the contracting done, get the plans done. Now the space itself is aligned with many layers of sound. There's a kind of geometry in the way the space is laid out, so that there's speakers in the ceiling, in the walls, in the floor, and some speakers even beneath the chairs. There are kind of bundles of speakers right in the center of the space, both from the floor up and from the ceiling hanging down. I'm in a special booth that's cantilevered out from the wall. The console that I work out is like a performance tool. It's laid out in such a way that I can work with it in a darkened room. It's almost like if you would play the piano, you know how to play it in the dark. Well, that's the way I can play that board. It's by feel. At the board, I'm able to, in effect, it's a combination of both complex panning devices and switching devices. It is able to do all kinds of complex panning so that I can move in all different directions all over the space at any given instant. Every element in this environment, it takes on a certain role of the pictures, the sculpture, even though there are certain visual things that I'll put on here, all of which are kind of part of the fabric of the work. Well, when people gather in the foyer, there's about a half hour in which there is a sense of sounds going on, and what's being established is a mood, an attitude, a feeling. And then I, in effect, guide everybody through this, what I'd call a sound tunnel. And in the course of that tunnel, they kind of wandered through this labyrinth. And the labyrinth takes us into a space which they look around at the setting, which tends to be a spiral of seats. And the lights begin to dim. And eventually, in total darkness, they sit for the next hour.
about nature. If you hear voices, you'd start to sort of maybe think about memories.
I think, you know, the way the sound is manipulated, it can be, you can kind of imagine at least the sense of levitation.
No, frankly, I've been intrigued with the way people have responded to Audium. I find that coming into this kind of environment where you're sitting literally in the total darkness and where sound is your connection to reality in there, that people go through a lot of an inner life. It creates a condition, give people permission to go inside themselves. And so there's a mood in there that's created that's very, very rich. Some people go off into the spheres, go into their childhood or bring back memories. I think music has had melody, harmony, and rhythm. And certainly the idea of space is not new to composition, but the idea of choreographing sound, of controlling it, of having a say in where it's coming from and how it's coming at you is another language. And when composers have the tools to manipulate this, to play as I've had, I think it's going to open up a whole new doorway